There is a phrase that, if someone says it to you, can ruin your entire day. Now imagine hearing it from the most powerful man in your industry, in his own office, in front of his people, delivered in the tone of someone who knows he holds all the cards. And now, imagine that, instead of walking away with your head down, you decide to spend a fortune, hire the best engineers you can find, and build, with your own hands, the machine that will prove to the entire world that he was wrong about you. That is exactly what happened between an Italian tractor manufacturer and the man behind the most desirable logo in motorsport, Enzo Ferrari. What you are about to hear is not just the story of how one of the most luxurious car brands on the planet was born. It is the story of an insult, a wounded ego, and a revenge carried out so perfectly that today, 60 years later, it is still roaring down roads across half the world. This is the story of Ferruccio Lamborghini and of the humiliation Enzo Ferrari should never have allowed himself to inflict. Maranello, Italy, the 1960s. A man walks into the most important workshop in the global automotive industry. He does not make an appointment. No one announces his arrival. He walks straight in with the stride of someone who has already run out of patience. Behind those walls works the most feared and respected man in European motorsport, Enzo Ferrari, the creator of the prancing horse, the god of Maranello. The visitor is not a journalist. He is not a competitor. According to many people at the factory, he is just a customer. A tractor manufacturer who became wealthy selling agricultural machinery and used that money to indulge himself by purchasing one of the most exclusive cars on the planet, a Ferrari. But that car has betrayed him again and again. And today, he has come to tell Enzo Ferrari himself directly to his face. What is about to happen inside that office over the next few minutes will change the history of motorsport forever. But before I tell you how Ferrari responded, we need to go back 30 years. Because to understand why this man dared to challenge the king of Maranello, we first need to understand where he came from. None of this would have happened if a boy from a farm in northern Italy had not decided very early in life that his future would not be about the land, but about engines. This is the story of Ferruccio Lamborghini, the man who was told to stick to building tractors and responded by building the car that shattered Enzo Ferrari's ego. Let us begin at the beginning. Ferruccio Elio Arturo Lamborghini was born on April 28, 1916, near Ferrara in northern Italy. His parents were farmers. Like so many Italian families of the era, their lives revolved around the land, the harvest, and physical labor from sunrise onward. As the son of farmers, Ferruccio's future had already been decided before he was old enough to have an opinion. Inherit the land, work it, and continue the cycle followed by generations of farmers before him. But the boy had a different obsession. He was not interested in crops. He was interested in what made things move. Engines, mechanisms, components, gears. While other children played in the fields, Ferruccio took apart and rebuilt anything he could find. His father's tractor was not simply a work tool to him. It was a mystery waiting to be solved. That curiosity led him to study mechanical technology, first in Fano and later in Bologna. He was not a brilliant student in the traditional sense, but he possessed something no classroom could teach, an almost obsessive instinct for understanding how a machine worked, and more importantly, how to make it work better. And then the war arrived. When World War II broke out, Ferruccio was drafted into the Italian Air Force. He was stationed on the island of Rhodes, in the Mediterranean, as part of the technical unit responsible for keeping military vehicles operational. And there, in the middle of the chaos of war, with spare parts in short supply, no manuals, and no factories available for support, Ferruccio became something close to a local legend, the mechanic capable of bringing engines back to life when no one else could repair them. He learned to improvise. He learned to adapt parts that had never been designed to fit together, yet somehow made them work anyway. At the time, it seemed like a minor skill, a wartime talent, useful for survival and nothing more. But that ability to take parts from one world, the military, and transform them into something completely different would be exactly what turned him into a millionaire only a few years later. Italy, late 1940s. The country emerged from the war devastated. Cities had been destroyed, the economy was in ruins, and the countryside faced an urgent problem. There was no agricultural machinery. Farmers needed tractors to begin producing food again, but no one had the money or resources to manufacture brand new equipment from scratch. What Italy did have, scattered across the country, was military scrap. Thousands of abandoned military trucks, engines, and vehicle components the army no longer needed. To most people, it was garbage. To Ferruccio Lamborghini, who had spent the entire war learning how to bring impossible engines back to life, it was an opportunity. In 1948, he founded Lamborghini Trattori. The idea was as simple as it was brilliant. Purchase surplus military engines and components, many of them British and American, abandoned after the troops withdrew, and convert them into agricultural tractors, adapted to the real needs of the Italian countryside. He was not inventing the tractor. He was doing something smarter, solving a problem using resources that absolutely everyone else was ignoring. Ferruccio did not simply assemble existing parts. He innovated. He developed a system that allowed his engines to run on both gasoline and cheaper, less refined fuels, something crucial in post-war Italy, where money was scarce and every drop of fuel mattered. That technical innovation, engines that were more economical, more durable, and better adapted to the conditions faced by the average farmer, sent demand soaring. The factory, established in Cento, near Ferrara, started small, but the business exploded. Italy needed to rebuild. The countryside needed machines. And Lamborghini offered exactly what the market demanded: genuine mechanical quality at an affordable price. Within a few years, Lamborghini Trattori went from an improvised workshop to one of the most important agricultural machinery companies in Italy. And the man who had once been a farm boy obsessed with engines that did not belong to him now owned a factory producing thousands of tractors every year. But the success of the tractor business did not end there. Lamborghini, thinking like a true post-war entrepreneur, began to diversify. He founded a company that manufactured heating and air conditioning systems, as well as another business dedicated to industrial oil burners. In an Italy rebuilding itself, house by house and factory by factory, each of those businesses found a market hungry for solutions. By the beginning of the 1960s, Ferruccio Lamborghini was no longer the son of a farmer. He was one of the wealthiest industrialists in northern Italy. He had sold tens of thousands of tractors, operated factories running at full capacity, and built a personal fortune that would have been unimaginable for someone from his background only 20 years earlier. And as often happens with men who build their wealth from nothing, once Ferruccio had the money, he began allowing himself the luxuries he had once only been able to admire from a distance. He bought property, he bought art, and above all, he began buying cars. Not just any cars, the fastest, most exclusive, and most expensive automobiles in Europe: Alfa Romeo, Mercedes-Benz, Maserati. Lamborghini did not collect cars as empty status symbols. He collected them because, deep down, he was still the same boy who used to take apart his father's tractor. Every new car was another machine he wanted to understand, feel, and push to its absolute limit. And sooner or later, that appetite was going to lead him directly to the doors of the most desirable automotive brand in all of Italy. Ferruccio was not the kind of man who purchased a luxury car and left it sitting untouched inside a garage. He drove it. He demanded everything it could give. He loved speed, and he loved pushing each machine to the precise point where it began to fail even more, because he wanted to understand exactly why it failed. That habit, driving aggressively, braking late, and demanding everything from the clutch through every corner, was precisely the type of use that exposed a car's true weaknesses. And over the years, Lamborghini began noticing something that frustrated him more and more. His high-end Italian cars, the most expensive and prestigious machines money could buy, kept breaking. They broke frequently, and he was the one who had to pay every repair bill. Among all the cars in his collection, one name began standing out above the rest because of how often it returned to the workshop: Ferrari. Ferruccio did not merely admire the brand. He bought its cars, drove them, and eventually owned several Ferrari models over the years, including a Ferrari 250 GT, one of the most coveted automobiles of its era. It was fast, it was beautiful, it was the dream of every automobile enthusiast in 1960s Italy. But according to Ferruccio's personal experience, it was also mechanically problematic. And the exact component that failed most often was something he understood better than almost anyone else in the world: the clutch. The clutch in his Ferrari failed, again and again. Lamborghini took the car to the workshop. They repaired it, returned it to him, and within a matter of weeks, it failed again. For any other customer, this would have simply been a source of frustration. For Ferruccio Lamborghini, it was a professional insult. Because he was not just another customer, he was a mechanical engineer. He owned a factory that produced thousands of engines every year. And when he finally decided to climb underneath the car himself and investigate what was happening, he discovered something that left him completely stunned. The clutch Ferrari was installing in one of the most expensive and prestigious sports cars in Europe was essentially the same type of component Ferruccio used in his agricultural tractors. It was not an exact copy piece for piece, but the technology, the design, and the basic concept behind the clutch were the same as those used in farm machinery, not in an elite performance car. For Ferruccio, this was not simply a technical defect. It was proof that Ferrari, the brand he admired and continued paying enormous amounts of money to, was not giving the durability of its road cars the same level of attention it gave to its prestigious image. And being the kind of man he was, direct, proud, and accustomed to solving problems with his own hands, Ferruccio decided he would not remain silent. He would go directly to the source. He would speak to Enzo Ferrari in person. And this brings us back to the beginning. Ferruccio Lamborghini arrived in Maranello. He did not send a letter. He did not request an appointment through intermediaries. He appeared in person, like a businessman, accustomed to resolving problems face to face. He managed to secure a meeting with Enzo Ferrari, a man who, at the time, was practically untouchable in the world of European motorsport, the absolute master of Italy's most desirable automobile brand. Lamborghini explained the problem with complete honesty. The clutches kept breaking, and he, as an engineer, had confirmed that Ferrari was using the same basic technology found in agricultural tractors. This was not the complaint of an ordinary customer who understood nothing about mechanics. It was a technical observation made by a man who manufactured engines for a living. Enzo Ferrari's response, according to the version of the story repeated for decades, was as brief as it was devastating. With complete contempt, he told Lamborghini that a tractor manufacturer had absolutely nothing to teach him about building sports cars. He told him to stick to what he knew, to go back to his tractors. It was essentially the automotive equivalent of saying, "You know nothing about this, farmer," spoken by the most powerful man in Italian motorsport to one of the country's most successful industrialists. The meeting ended there, brief, tense, and according to those who knew both men, neither of them would ever speak to the other again. Enzo Ferrari probably walked out of that office without giving the conversation a second thought. To him, Ferruccio was simply another difficult customer. But those words remained buried inside Ferruccio Lamborghini, and instead of simply purchasing a different brand of car, he made a far more radical decision. Ferruccio did not return home to feel sorry for himself. He returned to his factory with a single idea fixed inside his mind. If Enzo Ferrari believed he could not build a sports car, Ferruccio would prove him wrong by building one better than Ferrari's. This was not merely the impulsive decision of a man whose pride had been wounded. At that moment, Lamborghini possessed exactly what he needed to attempt it. A fortune he had built from nothing, decades of experience in mechanical engineering, and a fully operational factory capable of manufacturing high-precision engines. In 1963, he founded Automobili Ferruccio Lamborghini. From the first day, the objective was clear and direct. He would not compete on racetracks, as Ferrari did. He would build the ultimate road-going sports car, a machine that combined the power and design of an Italian supercar without the mechanical problems that had frustrated Ferruccio himself as a customer. A car as fast as a Ferrari, but reliable, as luxurious as a Ferrari, but refined enough for everyday roads, not just the racetrack. To accomplish that, Ferruccio knew he needed more than money and ambition. He needed the greatest automotive engineering talent available in Italy, and he knew exactly where to find it. Lamborghini began recruiting engineers with almost surgical precision. He went directly to the source, to the people who already understood the supercar business from the inside, many of whom had previous experience close to Ferrari and the world of Italian racing engineering. Among the key names was Giotto Bizzarini, who was placed in charge of designing the heart of the project, a monumental V12 engine. There was also Giampaolo Dallara, a brilliant young engineer, Paolo Stanzani, and designer Franco Scaglione, who was tasked with shaping the body of the car. It was an audacious move. Ferruccio was not merely building a new automobile. He was assembling a team capable of challenging, with genuine technical knowledge, the company that had humiliated him. The message, although no one needed to say it out loud, was clear. The farmer had not only learned how to build sports cars, he had hired the people who knew how to build them better than almost anyone else. In 1964, only 1 year after founding the company, Lamborghini introduced its first production model, the 350 GT. It was powered by an imposing V12 engine and designed to compete directly against the great Grand Touring sports cars of the era. But it followed a different philosophy from Ferrari: comfort, refinement, reliability on public roads, not merely speed on a racetrack. Only around 120 units were produced, a small, almost handcrafted production run, but the message had already been delivered. The tractor company was now, officially, a manufacturer of elite sports cars, and Ferruccio had accomplished it in record time. The 350 GT was not yet the masterpiece that would define the company. It was the proof of concept, the demonstration that Ferruccio had been right, that he was capable of building an automobile worthy of competing with the best Italy had to offer. But the machine that would truly change the history of motoring, the one that would transform Lamborghini into a global legend, had yet to arrive. In 1966, only 2 years after the introduction of the 350 GT, Lamborghini unveiled the car that changed everything, the Miura. Its name paid tribute to a legendary Spanish fighting bull ranch, a perfect reference for what the car represented: raw power, aggression, and untamed elegance. The Miura was not simply fast. Its engineering was revolutionary. It placed its V12 engine transversely, directly behind the driver, a configuration that was radically different from what the competition, including Ferrari, was offering at the time. Over the following decades, that mid-engine layout would become the standard configuration that defined the modern supercar. Its design, created by Marcello Gandini for Bertone, was so daring and so sculptural that the Miura became more than a commercial success. It became a cultural icon. The car movie stars wanted to own. The car that appeared on posters inside teenagers' bedrooms across Europe. The car that, for the first time, made people speak about Lamborghini, not as the other Italian brand, but as an independent benchmark with its own identity. Enzo Ferrari, the man who had once told Ferruccio to stick to building tractors, now faced something he had never truly faced before: a serious, technically legitimate, and commercially successful rival emerging from the same region of Italy. The farmer had not merely learned how to build sports cars, he had built one that redefined what a sports car could be. Ferruccio Lamborghini would eventually sell his ownership in the company during the 1970s, as the oil crisis struck the entire luxury automobile industry. He retired to an estate near Lake Trasimeno, where he dedicated himself to producing wine and living a far quieter life, far away from the roar of engines. But his name, the family name of a farmer's son from Ferrara, still appears on every automobile that leaves the factory in Sant'Agata Bolognese today. Enzo Ferrari believed he was dismissing an irritating customer that day in Maranello, a tractor manufacturer who had nothing to teach him about sports cars. But what he actually did, without realizing it, was create his own rival. Because Ferrari did not destroy Ferruccio Lamborghini with those words. He built him